So Torben was on first. Congratulations. Torben wants to know what you had for dinner. So what are you going to have for dinner tonight? I know he had something. I have to go and look. I've got the chat, which is easier to read for blind people. I told him that Karl and I are going to eat what the gods of Tilbud have decided. So those of you who are Norwegian know what Tilbud is. For Norway, Tilbud means sale, or the item that's on sale, which means it's going out of date, especially within the next day, so you get it for half off. So the gods of Tilbud have decided that we are having chicken wings and mashed potatoes. I know you're jealous. Yesterday, the gods of Tilbud decided that we were going to be having pizza because the Pepe's pizza base was on half price with chicken hot dogs because chicken hot dogs were also on sale. I'm looking more forward to today's dinner than yesterday's. So to see who's here. So I saw there's some, let's see. I see some faces I recognize. Some names. Susan Young-Men from Frankfurt, Germany, no longer from Adirondacks. It's so disappointing not to say Adirondacks, but Frankfurt sounds good. I hope you found your furniture and everything and settling in quite well. I'm assuming it's pretty cold there as well. It actually feels nasty cold here, but I was really surprised to find out that it is only -4 degrees Celsius. When I was driving over yesterday in Hemsedal, it was -18.5. And on the mountain itself, it was -23. But that's nothing according to Yakutsk. Apparently Yakutsk is something like -63 degrees Celsius, which is the coldest it's been on record, I think. And I like it because they interviewed a guy said, what is it like to live there? And he basically says something in Russian, and then he says, which translates to, you just have to wear a lot of layers, like a cabbage. But the funny thing is when he said it, he's like, you just have to wear a lot of layers. So I can totally relate to that because that's what it was like in Duluth too, but you just have to wear a lot of layers and you'll be warm. So no problem, but block the wind and you're good. Oh, anyway, let's see. Who else is here? Garcia's here from Holland. Oh, she's got a little sun today, but yeah, it's cold. There was sun out today too, and Ashley's here. And she's got 0 degrees in Kansas. Oh my God, that's cold. Almost done with a personal embroidery project and can finally get back to tablet weaving. Is the embroidery project, does it have brown in it? Because it's the color challenge. I did finish the hat that's got some of the pink in it, but mostly brown, so that counts. You have till the end of the month. It can be a painting, can be a quilt, can be needle binding, can be something small, big, whatever. And it doesn't have to be completely brown, just has to have brown in it. And then in February, we get to pick a new color. So, I thought we'd start out with like a basic color this month. Lindsay's here. She made it. Yay, on a Saturday. And Kiwi's here. She's freezing too, I bet. Dallas says Lindsay's is 48 degrees Fahrenheit. So she's above zero. Above freezing anyway, so that's good. Kiwi says, I plan on making a pair of mittens that will match my null-bound hood. Oh, she finished her hood. You have to go and see. I have been on Facebook for like 1 hour this complete week, if even that. And the first thing I see is she did the hood, to the hood that she finished. So that was really cool. And she had like something like 787 likes on it or something. So way to go. And there's like a bunch of comments on there, but I didn't have a chance to go through. But one of them said, and also congratulations on one of the best pictures put on the needle binding group in Facebook. She's wearing her Viking outfit with the hood on top. So congratulations, you have a really good camera. I should get you to take pictures of my stuff. But I'm glad the hood worked out for you. That was really good. I think I saw it when you first put out, and then I put a link for it, but I only recently saw it again about 2 days ago. Anna Taylor's here. She caught up. She's been catching up. I'm getting those little notifications on YouTube that she's catching up, watching it in reverse. So I have to go through and answer too. I have not been very good at being on social media lately. It's because of the inventory and end of year commissions and other stuff that we have to do for our shop and online guiding. We have set up, Karl will tell you about it later, we're set up a tour that you can take I believe it's going to be on the 4th of February, Saturday, which is about 3 o'clock at 3 o'clock at about our time, because there's finally enough light. And if you haven't seen Karl's tour before, you have an opportunity to do that, and it's the price of a normal entry ticket to the village. But you can watch it from behind your own TV screen or your computer screen, and you can have as many people behind that screen, it doesn't matter. So I'll talk about that one in a little bit. Lindsay's been sewing scales on her boyfriend's brown dragon costume. That counts. That's brown. Let's see. Albert's here. He was watching a movie. Oh, but now you're watching me. That was so much better. I see Arndt is here. Long time no see. How are you doing? And where in Norway are you nowadays? He used to be just down the road, actually. Karl and I are renting the house that he was living in. So we know just how cold that house is. And Karin is here. She found some Alafas Lopi in Bergen the other day. That was the yarn it's Icelandic wool. It's absolutely wonderful. There's also Let Lopi. That's been really hard to find last year. People were looking everywhere for it because apparently there was some sort of a shortage or factory problem in Iceland at the time, but it's really cool to see it coming back again. So people who have unfinished projects in that yarn can actually finally finish it. But I love that wool. If you ever want to go with something that looks plant dyed in natural colors, that's a good one to go with. And the Alafas Lopi is nice and thick, so you could do a hat in Oslo and it'd be done in seconds. Or maybe 4 hours. Karsten and Dordo are here. Welcome. And Ashley's here. She says, no, it's green and silver. Brown. just make a little coaster and that's all you have to do. You can make a cup holder. Torben says he's watching full screen surround and subwoofer cranked up to 11. All this in the hope that Karl farts so that we can feel the sound. Just so you know, Torben. No. I think it's a good idea. I just wanted to really be in his living room. And Perut is back. Yay! She had a good question last night. There were so many fun questions for Karl that I missed a couple of them. She asked him about, did Vikings ever use marijuana or something similar? So Karl's been thinking all week and has an answer for that one and any more goofy questions if you have any. Next week is Albert's birthday, so he might not be here. Happy birthday in advance. How old are you going to be now? I know you're still in your 20s for a bit longer. Torben hears voices. He will be there. Okay, so anyway, let's do a little bit of needle binding before I get Karl in here. Oh, Heidi Lisa's here too, and Annette O'Connor. There's a lot I keep missing. So, yes, last week we played with the Danish stitch. I was going to show you the hat that I was working on last week that I started. Except for my car door is frozen shut and I can't get in there, so I'm going to have to just show you Double Danish on some other yarn. So we can do round start. Let's see, I'll turn this camera. There. We have a coat background today. So this was, I'm going to do it in a round, by the way, but this is how I do a round start. I make a slip knot. Let's see, take the short end, twist over, pull a loop up. So when you tighten it with the short thread, you can tighten your loop afterwards. But this is the round start I normally do. There's a deconstructed one you can do, which is easier, but not necessarily faster. So anyway, for Danish stitch, I only need one loop, which was on my thumb. So go in the ring, make a loop on my thumb, and try to keep the ring separate. So for Danish, go for the previous row. You would just go off this one like dollar knot and then under the main yarn and pull through. But and you do that over and over again. It's nothing more than that, but we're going to do Double Danish today. So for Double Danish, I need 2 loops. So I will make this last one, the first one, a little bit smaller. I forgot, I can't get my needles out of the car either, so I've borrowed one of these cheapy bone ones that we have in the store. They're only like 69 kroner, but a nice wooden needle or bone needle will cost you anywhere between 150 and 200 kroner in Norway. But it'll work with fat yarn. It's not my favorite. They're a little too short for me. Okay, so I have 2 loops. One, there's my old one, there's my new one. I'm putting that behind my thumb. So for Double Danish, from the previous row, you're not going through that one first like Oslo. You're still taking this one off like Dalarna, but then you're going through the back one. So it's the same thing, but that's the only difference. So, and keep track of where your old loop is. That's it. So who wants to try double Danish? And then my gauge will be different with crochet. If I was going to crochet in the round, I would do 8 stitches, but I think this one I'll probably be needing about 10. When I was making the hat in Coptic stitch a couple of weeks ago, I had more stitches in the middle than I needed. So it got a little bit wavy, but you can see I had to fix it by just skipping, not increasing as much, and it finally got better. So I can do the same thing with this one. You got lost halfway through that. Okay, here is your, well, don't worry about the round start. That's just me making a round start. But you have to start with 2 loops on your thumb. Get 2 loops on your thumb no matter what. If you're going to make a chain, that's fine. Danish stitch is just with 1 loop, and you just go underneath and under that. That's the Danish stitch. But double Danish stitch, you have your old loop or your new loop, and you go under both of them and then under the leader yarn. That's it. It's a really easy stitch. This one's called double Danish. Let's see. It's kind of hard to do this around a camera. So has anyone tried to make anything out of the stitch? I don't think I've actually made anything more than a sample out of it. So this will be kind of fun to see if I can make a hat out of it. It's going to be pink. Maybe I should cheat and say next month this color will be pink. No, I have to be a little bit better than that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll do one more and see if it's enough. See, I did it quick, but you can always go back and watch it again. There. So that's my 10th one. So I'm assuming 10 is going to be correct for me to have in a ring. So then I take it off my thumb, and then remember I made the slip knot. So when I pull the short end, it makes a rosette. That's how I do my round starts normally. There's, like I said, there's a deconstructed way, which is much easier, where you just make a flat chain with a long tail and pull it through, and it's basically the same thing. But actually, yeah, if you were going to do it that way, you would make a chain, just as you normally would, Oslo or anything other stitch you want, just make a chain. But keep the tail of the yarn really long from the start, because that tail, you can run it through the bottom of the stitches and then pull tight, and it does the same thing as doing it this way. It's just a deconstructed way of making a round start. Let's see, put my old loop. Here's another little trick. If you're not sure what your old loop is, you can look at it flat. This is my first loop. That goes on my thumb. That's my second loop. That's my third loop. That's my fourth loop, and so on. So because I want the first loop on my thumb, I can loosen it. And there's my second loop, so I don't lose it. Ta-da! And I'll do 2 in every stitch for a while and see how that goes. Did I do this right? Yeah, I suddenly had to remember what stitch I was doing. No, so anyway, have you ever tried to do a double Danish? Or make anything in it? I saw on Nudlock and Tot, my wonderful favorite needle binding page. She made a pair of mittens, and it looks really cool in it. Let's see. I'm not liking this needle. It's too short. And maybe I shouldn't have taken such long yarn. Okay, and then, of course, what are you working on today? Doesn't necessarily have to be needle binding. We won't judge loudly. No, I think I'll just do F1. Yep. So I'll check chat and see who I'm ignoring now. So do we have any fun questions for Karl, too? I'm trying to think of something that will just, we got super excited talking about glasses last week that I forgot. I didn't get all the questions in for him, so we have to give him some more. And more the ridiculous question, the better, because it's just fun watching him try to answer this stuff. And he does. Let's see. Oh, Arndt says it is -12 in Evia. Okay, so that's where you are nowadays, yeah. Yes, the house that we're in is, says Arndt, is unhealthily cold during the winter. Use a fortune in heating and firewood. He used 3 pallets of firewood every month during the winter. Oh, you're going to love this. We haven't used any firewood at all. We haven't heated up at all. We've been using heaters, and we pretty much just moved into the living room. So the living room and kitchen is like one big room, and that's pretty much the only room we're using in the house. The bathroom is up on the 2nd floor, which in and God of itself is difficult. But it's cold up there too, so we only find out kind of waiting as long as you can until you absolutely have to go to the bathroom, and then you make a mad dash up the stairs. But then you don't want to leave the bathroom because it's the world's tiniest bathroom. There's just a toilet, nothing else. You have to back into it and then shut the door because it's that small. But it has a heater in it. It is the warmest room in the entire house. So once you get in there, you know, bring a book or something because you don't want to leave when the rest of the house is so cold. But that house is so cold that even in July, the hottest month of the year, you still have to heat it. So, if you saw it, I don't know, about a month or 2 ago, I'm slowly moving to Gudvangen, and so I brought all my mom's quilts with, and I was going to just put the quilts away. They're all folded up, and I was going to put them away until later, but then we decided, what if we hang them all on the wall so it looks like the inside of a yurt? But it actually does help a little bit with the insulation. And then Karl walks around with military blankets on. Let's see. Wool blankets everywhere. Torben says, fill up a shopping bag with really hot water and hold it to the car door. Don't spill it. Keep it in the bag, and that should thaw your door. Oh, good. It's the 2 back doors, so I can get through the back hatch, and I can get through the front doors, no problem. But it's the back doors I can't open up. So if I just need something out of the back seat, because the car is completely full. Let's see, I need to do one more. So then maybe I can get the stuff out of there anyway. It'd be nice to have gotten the yarn out before. But I had a needle binding class in She this last week, and I will have the next 2 weeks as well. She is spelled S-K-I. It's kind of cute. Not skis. But they're starting to make a round start hat a flat start hat from the bottom, a bottom-up hat would be the better way of saying that, in Oslo, and they all did so well. They all managed to make a headband that was big enough to fit over. They did 3 rows, and it still fits nicely on their head, so I keep forgetting to count how many times I do stitches here. So, let's see how far they got this week at home. If they're ready to learn how to decrease. Most of the people that take classes from Husflid, which is Norway's handcraft club or organization, they all usually have a knit and crochet background, which in case the concept of increasing and decreasing will be easier for them. I should really learn to count. 2, 2. Let's see, one more. But anyway, that house is temporary until I eventually move completely out of my house in Vestby and buy something. But location, it's only 5 minutes down the road. Kiwi says today she's been working on her null-bound sweater, Dalby stitch. I love Dalby stitch, doing that, a whole sweater out of that's going to be amazing. After this stream, she'll add today's stripe to the mood blanket project too. Oh yeah, that's right. I like that. We were talking about that earlier. I've seen the similar thing done with with scarves and other blankets where you add you assign a different color to different temperature, and then every day you check the temperature and then you make a row in that color and you kind of have this big thing. You spend a whole year making it, so it's kind of cool. Aren't asks, they changed the window in the bathroom yet? And the room where the freezer is, nope. And the freezer's not even working, but hey, who needs a freezer in this weather anyway? Nope, they haven't. We just keep the door real shut. We managed to get one of the doors. The windows in the bathroom and the shower area didn't shut. So one of them is open, but the other one we managed to pull it shut. It was kind of like painted open or something. It's a really old house. But it's got, I like the walls in the living room though. They're kind of stripped. Well, right now they're covered in quilts, so I really like the walls in the living room. It's starting to turn out interesting. Let's see. Lindsay's working on the same thing, sewing scales. Let's see. Pruda, I'm reading backwards now. Pruda says, we're having an early spring here. It's warm and wet and demented birds are going mad or going nuts. Oh, so you're probably the one person that's got warm weather now. Let's see. I will try the shopping bag with hot water, though. I think that might do the trick to get the door open. Usually, if I can get in the car, climb over the back, the seat, and then push the door, well, then it will open. Anna says, I pulled all the fabric mostly on bolts from the top of our bedroom closet. It is now on my bed, and I will be decluttering and organizing it into a temporary storage. That's a good thing to do. I've just cleaned out my storage unit. It's just like a closet-sized storage unit. Oh my God, there is stuff I have not seen since I moved into the house that I have since 2022. I mean, in 22 years. It's time to declutter them a little bit more often. I was very happy to see that most of the stuff in there was stuff that I had was either going to donate or get rid of, or it belonged to a car that I had 2 cars ago. The spare tires or something. There. Let's see. And this is mostly this is mostly my costume and home decor fabric with some regular mixed in it. That's another thing we did. The windows are just thin in this house. They're thin and single pane. So most of the cold is coming in through that way, even with the windows shut, of course. So this fabric, I think I bought about 6,000 kroner worth of fabric from Rainbow Textile in Oslo. It was having a sale, and we need to make more Viking clothing. So, but they had a lot of grays and thick wool. So that wool is now folded up and spread over the windows. So it looks like a three-fourth of a yurt in there, and from the outside it probably looks like one of those college houses where they party all the time. Oh, I did 2 in there. I don't know if when you're in college in the United States, and if you're sharing a house with some other people, it's usually some old house that probably should have been condemned ages ago. But you always use blankets for curtains because you can't afford real curtains, and you'd rather buy beer. So this is kind of what this house looks like. Max is here. Welcome back. Yep, Arn says it's the nicest place in the summer with a river cloaking the sound from the road. I agree. When it was raining like mad over here, the river really sounded good. So Max, we're doing Double Danish today. Well, I'm playing with Double Danish. So Double Danish was just like regular Danish, except this was regular Danish. You went under and under. But Double Danish is under the new one, under the old one, and then like that. It's kind of a simple one. So we'll see how this turns out. I hear Karl. Is that you, Karl? Nope, I don't hear Karl. I say I get him. Come up with some really fun questions. I'll let you look at that for Viking. Hey, Karl. You come play? Yeah. All right, I'm expecting some really stupid Viking questions too. You can ask him some good ones, of course, but something silly. So, Bruder, we're going to ask him, did the Vikings use marijuana? See what he says. That was the question I missed last week because there was so much fun chatting. We had so much we got in such a big discussion about glasses. And the Vikings did not have glasses. I think we even talked about that too. What would the Vikings do for the, people who go blind? Splitting my yarn? No, I'm not. There. Buying a new house, or a house at all in Gudvangen would be really difficult. There's not many places that you could even be allowed to. I don't think you can build any more houses in the valley because avalanches. We're talking about how cold the house is. Arndt is on. He says, this is nothing. Come over here. Okay, Karl. So we got stupid questions for you.
Uh-huh.
The first fun, stupid question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. There's just stumping Carl. There we go. Marijuana. Did Vikings have it?
There is a small bag of hemp seeds in not the Oseberg but the Gok Starship,
Yeah.
and that is the only find. There are also nothing I've found or heard about in the sagas that seems to reference it.
Yeah.
So if they used it as a substance, that is to get the buzz, then that was probably not as a recreational drug, but as some kind of mystical, spiritual woo-woo drug. There is another find in Firkat, Denmark, of a bag of henbane, and henbane causes hallucinations, and it's one of the theories about berserkers.
What is that? A plant? Or I mean.
It's a plant, but I don't know much more than that. It comes in different variations. I believe it's black henbane that has been associated with berserkers. But again, there is so many references to stupid decisions made while drunk in the sagas that if they had another way of getting to the stupid decision, they would have mentioned it. I'm pretty sure. So to the extent that it was probably just used by a very small subset of society, and probably almost in secret. It was not a party drug. I'm pretty sure about that. But you have to guess from a lack of evidence in this case. So, who knows?
I make stupid decisions when I'm sober.
Yeah, you can do that in the Viking Age too.
And
But usually it's a good excuse to say that, yeah, no, I wasn't really planning to invade Norway, but you see, the Danish king made me really, really drunk.
although the Vikings really got to Lindisfarne, it was drunk driving.
No, Lindisfarne wasn't a stupid decision. It was like buying bitcoins 3 years ago. It was a fantastic economic decision.
Apparently, Bitcoin's making a comeback now. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, don't care.
Okay. The needle I'm using is almost identical to, I'm using is almost identical to Max's that you ordered on Amazon. Yeah, it's a basic needle. This one, it's we got a bunch of these in this store. They cost like 69 kroner. It's a cheap needle. It's a bone. We used to have them in horn as well, but we sold out of the horn ones. They were the same price. I like the bone more than the horn. The horns are a bit more plastic feeling and they bend a lot easier when they're warm. Not my favorite needle, I gotta say. But like I was saying before you got here, though, Max, the car door is... I can't get in the back seat of my car because when the doors are frozen shut. So I have to borrow a needle from this store. So this is the one I borrowed with. There's nothing wrong with it. Some of them are just a little wider than I would like. But it's just that it's shorter than I would like. But I like that the eye is actually big enough so I can fit my fat yarn through it. So it works. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just personal preference that I like a long needle because bad hands, so I like to have a lot to hold on to instead of... I have bad grip. But yep, it's a nice little basic needle. There's a lot of people that have these ones.
Are you making more rhinoceros anatomy?
It's not rhinoceros anatomy. It's the Double Danish stitch. It'll be a hat. I think I increased too much in the beginning, but I'm not sure yet. It's growing. We'll see. Okay, fun questions for you. I'm counting on you, Torben, to come up with a good one. Kiwi says for the blanket that she's working on, she's doing a variety of Oslo stitch where she's added an added loop on my thumb. It changes the pattern, but it looks really pretty. There's a lot you can do that, but is it taking forever to do that stitch? Because it takes forever to do Oslo stitch, even with additional loops or not. I think there's two different ones that she shows in the video, one with 2 loops and one with one less. But it takes forever, but it's so worth it. It looks really cool. Arndt says we have to be aware of ice inside the big room on the other side of the hall. Oh yeah, no, that's been frozen full of windows. You've been calling that the textile room. We don't use that room. I just store my crap in there. Everything that's going with the that I've moved over, it's all in plastic bins and in there. But yeah, no, you could write your name in the frost on the window. But no, there's no way in hell we're living in that room. So we just store everything in there that's going to get moved to the next house. But I see what you mean, yeah. Albert says in his bedroom he's using cardboard for curtains because his landlord does not allow us to screw things into the walls. Good idea. I was talking about how we have this wonderful, for one, we have the yurt situation with the quilts going around the wall, but it's actually helping a little bit with insulation. But that we took all the fabric we're supposed to make Viking clothes with, and they're hanging in the window like college kid curtains. It's helping a little bit. Oh, and we have the cushions for the lawn chairs are also in the window. I don't feel bad for anybody who drives by that house. Torben says, question and answer for Karl. Q&A for Karl. When you make a double bread dough, do you also double up on the yeast? We have to do that yet. We still haven't played with the dough. We've been playing Conan. The bread maker we still got to use. So what do you think? If you're going to make a double bread dough, would you double up the yeast?
Since he's asking, probably not.
Huh?
It's a living organism, so it probably grows into the environment that it is in.
Yeah.
So, if you have dry yeast and you put it in water at room temperature, you probably want to double the water, but there is no reason to double the yeast because it will probably just multiply, I'm guessing.
I would have totally doubled the yeast. Is that not a good thing?
I don't know.
I can't make that.
I'm just guessing. He wouldn't be asking if it was as simple as just going yes and looking at him.
I know, which makes me feel really stupid because I would have totally doubled the yeast. And I'm thinking that's probably why, I don't know, when I make bread, if I've ever, the very few times I've made bread, it looks like a rock. It's like, and it weighs like a rock too. And I've tried, I mean, no matter how long I try to let that thing rise, and so hopefully the stuff that comes out of the bread machine won't be a rock. But you're gonna make the first batch. You're definitely the.
Yeah, but you have the patience of a coffee night and hummingbird, so there is unlikely that you're not letting that dough rise for long enough.
No, it might be because the room is too cold. I should probably heat. Let's see. Max says I'm using Finish 2+2 in the round start and using the crochet version. I made 3 chains and I slip the stitch at the end and I do the work as usual. Okay. I love Finish 2+2, but I usually use an F2 connection as well. I do the round start the same way as this one, but so you can do a disconnected one. But I haven't done the crochet version. There's one called faux crochet, or it's called Virkad Nalbinding, which actually translates literally to faux crochet, or faux needle binding because it's actually crochet, but they try to get a needle binding look with it. But the biggest giveaway is if you pull it, it'll come undone, which won't happen with needle binding. But it actually, I found out, I tried it just for fun anyway, but it was more time consuming to do the faux crochet than it was to just needle bind something. But it didn't have quite the identical look to it, but it wasn't too bad if you really want a different way of trying things. There's a knitting stitch you can also do that looks a lot like needle binding, and I actually managed to fool some people with it. It's called the herringbone stitch in knitting. So when you do the herringbone stitch, it also takes a little bit more time to do because you have to like drop one, you have to go pull 2 stitches, whatever. So it's almost faster to just needle bind it anyway. But that one I think I made something out of it anyway, and I put it next to it like in the, how do you like my new needle anyway, or my nawl. Nawl is a squeegee in Norwegian. So I found a squeegee and I put some thread on it and I set it on top of this herringbone knit fabric. And I said, how do you like my new needle? And I, and bonus tip if anyone else can see another error in this picture. And I think only one person managed to realize there that the knitting in the background, it was knit in the background and not needle bound. But I did fool quite a few people on that one. Anyway, I do actually think it's quicker to just needle bind it, but you never know. I'm not the fastest crocheter in the world either, so. Albert says, what about hemp?
Yeah, it's good for ropes, but I don't think they used it as a recreational drug.
No. this all came up because we were talking about tobacco. How about hops?
Well, you need them for beer, so
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Do they use hops for anything else?
Bread baking is a theoretical possibility. We don't know that because this is from like the research we did last summer about food.
Yeah.
There is one piece of leavened bread found from the Viking Age, and that is in connection with the burnt sacrifice. So they are speculating it's like bread roll, and they are speculating that it might not have meant to be leaven. It just was basically put away, and then it was standing outside for a while before the actual burnt sacrifice that basically conserved it. So the rising of the dough might be an accident. But we don't know that, and I would say it's probably meant to be like that, but it's hard to say based on just one find. And most of the time they use not what we think, they could make what we think of as flatbread, but I would make bread that is flat, but not called flatbread, the type that they call Viking brød in Norway. Basically, you make a flat patty of
Bread dough?
yes, but the bread dough is made from havre.
Wheat?
No, not wheat. That's vete. Barley? No.
No, that's big. Oat. Sorry, oat.
Yeah.
Havre is oat. And then you have to put honey on it otherwise because it tastes like
So
cardboard.
it's basically just fried oatmeal.
Yeah. So do you think we should try that in the hemp in the bread maker?
Why would you put hemp in the bread maker?
No, not hemp. Hops. Hops in the bread maker. Sorry. Don't put hemp in there. I want to eat that. Hops in the bread maker.
I'm not. Brewing is not my thing, so I don't know exactly what the hops do. It has to do with the fermentation process, but they are not the yeast. The yeast is the yeast.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what they are supposed to be doing, and the only reason I mentioned bread baking is because of what's his face, the bear brewer.
I was just gonna say Ivar.
Yeah.
Ivar lives up in the mountains, and he comes and he makes his own beer, and he brings down the.
Yeah. And he gave something to Siri that she talked about she could potentially use for bread baking.
That's the leftover, the grain or whatever. That's
It's a culture of yeasts.
Yeah.
Basically, but I don't know if hops have anything to do with the price of eggs in this context.
No, he still brings that down. Actually, brings down bags whenever he's making beer. That's the left of the grain or whatever. That's he takes that. It's so and you I think Greta Iran made beer bread out of it, but it smelled strongly of beer.
Yeah, no, everything that man touches smells strongly of beer. So
he makes good beer apparently, though. Too bad I can't try it because I'm allergic, but. Everybody says he makes really good beer.
It doesn't help that he lives in the middle of nowhere. So if you go over to him and drink, you basically have to stay over too. So.
Okay, this is what my Double Danish is looking like so far. I think it looks kind of lumpy. I'm really regretting that I didn't do F2, which would be connecting with one new and one old, because I don't know if you can see it, but it looks kind of... Yeah, you can. A little bit on the holy side, but it'll do. And the back side looks like that. Right now it's kind of bumpy though. I think it needs to be stretched.
Lumpy, bumpy, double Danish sounds like a very good insult to an overweight Danish person.
But it does not look like a rhinoceros's butthole. Because I didn't make the center too tight this time. I did it just right. No, but it's just the right kind of center now. No, but I did my increases. I started with 10 stitches, and it seems to have been just right for me. So there you go. Okay, I got some more stuff for you here. Hops is antibacterial, says Torben. Hops is also was also given to children that wouldn't sleep. I've heard of that before, actually. He would know. He's got the beer podcast. So, yep. Pruda says, question, what do we know about Viking bread, and does anybody regularly bake reproduction? I think Siri tried to make some in the oven thing that they made, but that
Yeah, no,
oven is
but
a
they're
very
flat.
short-lived.
The flatbreads that Grete and others make here are fairly authentic.
Yeah, that's the oatmeal patty ones. They
Yeah.
just taste like cardboard, so you have to put honey on it. But Vikings had honey.
Yeah, around here it would probably be too expensive, but
Yeah.
you can put whatever on it.
Did they have to import honey, or did they just have their own bees?
They probably didn't have thyme bees up here, but there would be wild bees, so you would have access to wild honey. And also, you have to import some things anyway. So bronze and honey would probably be high on the list of things to bring back home when you're already plundering France anyway.
Probably don't want to
type of
put
thing.
bronze on your bread, though. Being a dick. Purda says, in case anybody is wondering why I'm usually a few minutes late on Saturday night, husband often gets ideas. He's got a lot of good questions, though, Hector does, so you have to... Anyway, hops. She also says hops is a preservative, and it stops the beer from going off. Would explain why the stuff he brings in the bag, the
Yeah,
extra barley,
If
tastes
it kills the bacteria and doesn't kill the yeast, that would make perfect sense.
Yeah. Because I know the stuff he brings in the bar, that you could use that for quite a long time before it goes bad. Garcia says, question for Karl. Did the Vikings have peat burials? There's research going on in Holland at the moment. That's a good question.
It's a peat burial where you purposefully make a peat bog body.
I would think so. I mean, the bog burials, we know those were probably not intentional burials. Those were probably...
They are intentional sacrifices that coincidentally preserves the body perfectly. But they are also from long before the Viking Age. I really, really wish the Vikings did something like that. Because then you would have very well preserved bodies from the Viking Age. And
Yeah.
we don't, so they probably didn't. But it's hard to know. They would have to find it first to basically say that they did. But that is if I'm interpreting the term peat burial correctly, because it might be whatever. I've never heard the term before.
No, but bog bodies that were found in the bogs, those are usually the best, or things too. The few pieces of textile that remain were found in bogs, I believe.
Yes, but
the-
completely other time period.
Oh, never mind.
What seems to be the case with the bog bodies
I like
is
that
that they are either criminals by their society's standards or human sacrifices that are basically put in the bog to be sacrificed to the gods. But it's very hard to say.
Ashley, 7-year-old, has a good question for you. Did the Vikings... This is actually a good question, though. Did the Vikings have carrots?
Yes, but they were smaller and lighter in color than the ones we have.
I thought they had the red ones. They didn't have orange carrots, though. Or was it the yellow ones? They didn't have orange carrots, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, they were not as... The way I understand it, they were more whitish in color.
Yeah.
And they didn't taste as strongly as our carrots.
Yeah.
And they were smaller. Everything was smaller in the Viking Age.
Because the red carrots that you can get when you peel them, your hands are all looking red and everything. They have a bit more taste to them actually than the orange carrots. But they didn't have those here. It was just the yellow carrots then.
And
There's white carrots too.
when it comes to farming, we want things to be bigger and more tasteful. So that's what we breed them to do. So a modern pig is much, much bigger than the pigs in the Viking Age. Same goes for horses and sheep and cows and everything.
Humans.
Not so much with humans, because for humans, the Viking Age is 35 generations ago.
Oh, okay.
But for pigs, the Viking Age is like 500 generations ago, if you assume a pig reproduces when it's 2 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
So you can also... We can basically control the sexual preferences of a pig much easier than we can control the sexual preferences of a human. So for humans to get bigger, smarter, or stronger or anything, you basically have to convince all humans that that's a good idea before you can breed them in that direction. But if you want to turn a wolf into a poodle, you just take the most poodle-like wolves for every generation and smash them together until you get more poodle wolves.
Poodle wolf.
Yeah, that's where the poodle comes from.
What would you call that? A poodle wolf.
A wolf.
A wolf. Oh my gosh. Katarina Vatford, hey, good morning from cold Phoenix. Welcome to really cold Norway. Did you know it's only -4? I would have thought it would be much colder than it's only -4.
It was
Celsius.
-14 this morning.
Was
so-
it? Okay, now that makes a bit more sense. I went out to go take a picture that I used on the thumbnail, and oh my god, it was only out for a couple of minutes, and my fingers felt like they were gonna fall off.
Yeah.
But I probably
But
should have
that
worn
also
gloves.
has to do with air moisture in this one.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know if you got a chance to see the thumbnail anyway, but that's we get wool donated by local farmers that have the same sheep because they're not breeding their sheep for the wool, they're breeding it for the meat. So rather than, well, actually you can, I was telling this one before though, you can actually in Norway go in the woods to pick wool. It actually is possible because it costs more money. It costs too much money to process the wool. So they shear the sheep and they just throw it in the woods and let it become nature. Anyway, so instead of them throwing it in the woods, they give it to us. And we had something like 15 bags of it, and there's probably 4 fleeces per bag. So we had a lot of it, but if we don't use it all within the year, then it starts to get a little deteriorated anyway. So one of the things I did is I took all the past year's donated wool and I hung it up in places around the village because it kind of decorates it a little bit, makes it look a little bit more rustic. So I put one on the fence there by that house, and by the end of the summer, somebody had attached a skull to the top of the pole and put some more wool on it, and it looks like a sheep now. So that's what I took a picture of. But the wind has gotten at it, so it's even getting more felted and everything too. But it looked kind of fun. So anyway, that's what that was. But I forgot what led me to that. Ashley says, yes, she loves carrots. There you go. Vikings had carrots. They did not have potatoes. Why didn't they have potatoes?
Because potatoes are from South America. It took a while to get people in Europe to accept potatoes.
I would have thought
Sir Walter Raleigh
Raleigh?
is credited to being the first guy to bring potatoes over. And he found them interesting, but you don't get other ordinary people to eat them. Among other things, because they consider things that grow underground to basically belong to the devil. So you shouldn't be eating it. And with potatoes, well, the things overgrown, the potato flowers, are poisonous. You don't want to eat them.
No.
And the potato itself that you can eat is underground, so it belongs to the devil, so you shouldn't eat it.
It belongs to the devil.
So in the 1700s, we had a phenomenon in Norway called potetprest, meaning potato priest, because the only people people were actually listening to were the priests, and the priests basically they are educated, so they understand that hey, if we get these idiots to eat the potatoes, we'll avoid famine, and the farmers will be more efficient. So in addition to talking about God and his carpenter's son, they also talk about potatoes quite a lot to get Norwegian people to understand that nope, they believe to belong to God, not the devil. You can eat them, it's fine. So from the late 1700s, Norwegian people become enthusiastic about potatoes.
See, it's not just the Polish people, my ancestry.
Not as enthusiastic as the Polish, but pretty as enthusiastic.
Something sticking off of you here. No. I have my most of my background is Polish that I know of anyway. I'm a third generation American. My great grandparents came from Poland, so I naturally really like potatoes. Does that mean anything? Like, I'm sacrificing potatoes to the devil for my own benefit, or?
No, the Polish like potatoes, particularly the distilled ones, but you can eat them too.
Vodka. No, I love potatoes. It's my favorite. We're having mashed potatoes tonight. Gods of Tilbury have decided.
Of course.
Kiwi says, for anyone interested in bog burials, she can recommend a book called Ancient Danish Textiles from Bogs and Burials by Margaret Hald. That is the book I was thinking of. That's why I was thinking of bog textiles. Anyway, she says it includes a lot of pictures and is really, really detailed. I have not read of it, but I knew that one. Let's see. Einar Tambarskjelver was a famous bowman. What kind of bows did they use? Did I read that right? Tambarskjelver.
Tambasher, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
They used what's basically very close to what we think of as the English longbow.
That's Torben, by the way.
They would prefer it out of yew tree, but other tree types can be used in a pinch because you don't usually grow
Get it?
in
Pinch?
doesn't usually grow in a way that would make it good for bows. It usually grows as a short bush with kind of crooked branches. But sometimes when you find a big piece that is big enough to make a bow out of, it's the perfect wood because it's like a laminated bow. The dark inner wood, the inner wood is light, basically a perfect bow. Downsides to this is, well, everybody knows this and I have known it for 1500 years. So the yew tree is very rare in Norway and it is fredet, protected.
It is protected, yeah.
It is completely gone from the British Isles, and that happened basically while they were still using longbows. So they started having kind of harbor tax. For every day a ship is in a British port, they have to pay 2 bow staves made out of yew wood to be allowed to stay there.
Oh, Arn says Alina experimented with making bread with horn salt. That made the flatbread really soft. Do we Vikings have horn salt? I'm thinking salt in general would have been a bit tricky to come by.
No, you need salt. So
sea salt.
You get it either directly or indirectly. They must have had it. But horn salt is basically ammoniac. So maybe. I don't know.
I was thinking something else, but I lost it. Okay, it was probably something really fantastically powerful.
You have a powerful comment to make about salt.
I did. I had a really good comment to make. Oh, no. Mushrooms. Vikings and mushrooms. Do they stuff their face full of it, foam at the mouth, and go berserk and then kill all the British, or what?
Well, no. We've been down this road before.
I know. It's been a while since we visited this berserker road.
You could theoretically have used the flying or the magic mushrooms as a recreational drug. But considering how that acts, I would think the sagas would then be completely full of stories going. And then Egil ate the mushroom, and also the idea of there are some battle drugs that actually kind of works.
Yeah.
But that would have to be something like caffeine or amphetamine or something like that in a kind of regulated and small dose, because if you get too much of it, you're not effective anymore. Anything that makes you hallucinate is pretty much by definition bad, and everything that breaks down your body in a spectacular manner is also to be avoided.
I don't think I'd want to hallucinate. I would. Well, I've already lost my grip on reality. Why make it worse?
Another thing, we know that sometimes soldiers smoke a lot of cannabis. It happened to the Americans during the Vietnam War. The so-called Hashashin, or the assassins, apparently used it recreationally. But they didn't use it recreationally while they are trying to assassinate somebody. Because a fairly mild intoxicant as marijuana is, one of the things it does fuck up is your sense of time. And do you see the problem with the assassin who is standing in the corner and doesn't know exactly what time it is?
So, Max asks, are there any null binding stitches found from the Bronze Age? The oldest stitch that I think we know of, this is an Ann Decker question, by the way. She knows the history. But I think the oldest one they can find is about 8,000 BC, and it's a fossil that they found it from. And if I remember correctly, it's simple looping, and now there's probably ants sitting on the other side of the screen later on going, "No, idiot!" But, so I would, history is not my strong point when it comes to needle binding, but simple looping might do it, or cross-knit loop. I think it's called cross-knit looping. Anyway, but simple looping, I can show that one real quick. Let's see. We turn the thing down.
Are you sure about the 8,000 BC thing?
All right, yep. I'm pretty sure of it. That was the oldest one they found. I thought, well, I mean, the oldest ball of yarn they've ever thought of discovered or whatever is 40,000 years ago. And that was rolled on the thighs
Yeah.
of a virgin. No.
It's like, if I'm not mistaken, you're well before the Viking, no, well before the Bronze Age.
Well before the
But,
Bronze Age, yeah, no, but Bronze Age
you
would
are
be...
in the Neolithic period. So.
Yeah, 2000 BC, then we know they had the Coptic stitch in Egypt. Those are socks, I think.
That's Bronze Age.
That's Bronze Age, so we know they had that. But simple looping would be like that. That's it. That's simple looping. You do that again and again. It's the blanket stitch. Anyway, so if you were just to go there and just pull through, and you would, it's super curly, and you would need to tighten it to the needle because it would be very loopy as well. But it does make a nice texture. It just kind of takes forever. Woo, other way. There we go. So that would have been, but there, I'm sure they've had some more anyway. But as far as I know, Coptic, the Egyptian socks are 2000 BC. And there's some more. Got to get Anne on here one of these days. You can join our Zoom chat on Saturday nights or Sunday, depending on where you're at. She has two of them that go. She has Group A and Group B. If I join in, and lately I have been, then I join in on Group B, which is 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sundays my time, because then I'm in the car driving back to Vespi, and she can keep me, and she and everybody keeps me awake. I can't watch because I'm driving the car, but I can listen to it like a podcast and scream every once in a while or something. But it's very entertaining anyway. But she not only can she answer the history picture, but she can bring up images that she's taken from all kinds of museums and such. And she'll even call a museum and have them take more detailed pictures for her. She absolutely loves and rocks at picking apart needle binding stitches and identifying the different ways than they did. I think there's a sock that she made, she recreated with fringe on it that might be that old. I'm not sure of the age of that sock, but it had fringe on it, and they used different stitches. I believe it was Coptic, but I don't know if it's Coptic, which would be like the knit and purl version of it, because she had like these hourglass patterns and stuff on it, and she will love. Oh, she will bring that sock forward. You have to see it. But I would highly recommend going on those, and you'll get all the history chat. And she absolutely loves questions like that too, by the way. So, Karin Okra is good. Okra, good morning from Minnesota. How cold is it in Minnesota? I gotta know. It's always we're very proud of it. There's two questions you can ask a Minnesotan: how cold is it, or cold enough for you, and how much snow did you get?
You can take the girl out of Minnesota, but you can't take the Minnesota out of the girl.
Nope. We like hockey. Kiwi says, the book is old. About the Bog book, yeah. The book is old, but it's really good to see how much of it has later been proven to be right by modern analysis techniques. Margaret Hall was really newer stuff. Oh yeah, she did a lot of needle binding things too, I believe, as well. A book on that as well. You is also toxic, says aren't quite correct. Runa makes needles out of you, by the way. And yes, I did. The Runa's needles are in my car. I can't get the door open. He was asking I should have used Runa's needles. I did, but Runa's needles, I brought them with me for the needle binding course because most don't have their own needles when they come in, so they have the option they can try to learn how to needle bind on his needles, or sometimes I have William Sulberg's needles with me too. And if they like the needle, they can buy it. So I borrowed them for the class. They're in my car, but I can't get the damn door open. So I'm going to try the hot bag of water trick that Torben came up with. You fill a plastic bag with hot water and hold it against the door. Don't let it leak, because then more ice. But so I'll try it. Torben says, we also have a lot of Morels wood. if any woodworkers in the village are interested. We cut down some old trees with big grafting knots, puderknutar on them. Yes, those actually makes really good needles. Bring some branches because Rune can make needles out of those. I'm sure he would want some. It's morel, I would write. Yeah, moreller. So like a cherry tree, I think. Let's see. Albert, question for Karl. Is there anything about Viking houses that you think people got wrong? That's a good one. Considering we have Viking houses here, but we're guesstimating.
We are guesstimating, and we are also on purpose doing some odd choices. As far as I know, and if somebody knows of an exception to this, then feel free to inform me. But as far as I know, there are no windows in any houses from the Viking Age.
No.
We can kind of justify it a little bit because they might, in places like Jorvik and other places where you have your store in your shop, you want some way to basically lock off your merchandise from ordinary people. So you could potentially have windows like that. But the Vikings are not concerned about their indoors climate at all. So they would be concerned about how much heat you're losing with having big windows even when they are closed. So they probably wouldn't have windows. And we have windows in every house except the chieftain hall.
Our Viking windows have shutters on the side that open like this on our houses, but I've seen others where they have...
Yeah, but...
Which would be more correct if they did have a window?
Well, who knows? It depends on what those windows look like.
I suppose.
Because... and I think they might have in places where you are trying to sell things from your living room. And that would make perfect sense in many connections. So if you are a silversmith or a bone carver who does small knick-knacky things, you don't want it to be open for theft every time you have to go and take a leak or whatever. Then you just close the window and
that would make
problem
sense.
solved.
Oh, Lindsay's off, so say bye to her too. Yeah, no, actually we hit it's 7. It's after 7 o'clock already. Time just flew. But we can go a little bit.
All of our houses are built on stone or foundations. Yeah. And the authentic Viking houses would very, very rarely, if ever, be built this way. There are examples of things. You have the stave churches are built on stone foundations. And at least one mead hall in England. I would think probably more than this one mead hall. But there is at least we know they could build things on a stone foundation if they wanted to. It's just that they generally didn't want to. They built it with their post holes going into the ground. And at least there are some indications that making these post holes, or probably making the first post hole, is a kind of important religious or ceremonial thing.
Oh, we did that up on the hill here, yeah.
Because they put small sacrifices in the post hole before the post goes in. And that might be something like nowadays when they are putting down the first stone in a building, they usually have either the local mayor or the king or somebody to come and basically symbolically do that. There might have been something like that going on. But there might be strong supernatural or superstitious reasons to do the same thing, because Vikings seem to have some odd ideas about houses.
Yeah.
I can't really wrap my head around it, but there is... The Vikings, when they're plundering things, they burn things for no reason, to the point where the Arab word for Vikings is basically translatable with fire worshippers. And this seems to have something to do with confusing the spirits of the village, so that the spirits won't be hunting you down because they are too disgruntled over the burned down house. I'm not sure if I understand this correctly, because it is kind of a hard concept to grasp. But they seem to have odd ideas about buildings and spirits, I think. Big caveats here, because this is an area where I don't think anybody really knows anything. So
ghosts aren't a modern invention?
Well, to the extent that people nowadays burn down the house to get rid of the ghost, then yeah.
We had a few people try to do that here.
I don't think they were trying to get rid of ghosts. They were just very bad at fire safety.
No, but there was one house that had unlucky fire safety incidents twice, so now we have new rules put down anyway. But because it had, the only 2 instances we've ever really had in the village with this happened to the same house. They immediately went in and burnt sage in there to clean it because it must have had bad luck or something. So they were burning sage in it.
This is bad luck in the same way that Alec Baldwin has bad luck. If you decide to break every safety rule, shit is going to happen.
He didn't squeeze the trigger. He just had his finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
There was, yeah, we're over, but that's okay. There's a couple more things I would want to say. Yeah, the Omani stitch. Ashley says, has anyone got Omani stitch down yet? I tried it a few times, but I keep failing. That is not an easy stick. It's not for the faint of heart. I would think it was actually probably one of the most difficult stitches on the Noe Lockentot webpage. And I showed it in the summer. I think it was late in the summer. I went and showed how to do it. And I have to, the start, I don't know, when I try to do the start chain anyway, every third start chain will work. The other 2 will something will go off, and it's just easier to start over and try it again, and then it'll work. So then I had it down. I got it so that I could do 3 start chains in a row, no problem. Go to do it on YouTube. Sure enough, I screw it up. But actually, if you have a good chain of Omani stitch actually working out of some scrap yarn or something, make a long one, because the easiest way to start off a new project with is to pick that one up, splice the wool you're going to use on that one, and continue the chain a little bit, and then just cut off that and keep that piece later to kickstart. Then you don't have to sit there and do the start all over again. I still haven't actually made anything more than a short sample. I tried doing a spiral in Oman stitch once, and I think I must have had something like 40 to 60 stitches just to get it to go around. It is so tall. But it was kind of fun to do. But the easiest way to do stripes, by the way, if you're going to do a striped hat, at least, is to start at the bottom, I think. And if you're going to do socks in Oman, which I believe there actually was, it's going to look more squared on the top, because for the same thing, it's really hard to do that in a round. So it would be easier to do it as a chain and make it kind of go flat that way instead, so it would look more flat on the top. But one of these days somebody's going to make something out of Oman. There's a few things on the internet made out of it, but not much. But that is if you really want to see how good you are at needle binding, that's the one you got to try, the Omani stitch. And I saw Kiwi I tried it as well. She got someone on Facebook page that had figured out the Omani stitch. Yeah, I should post some of the things. The reason I haven't really made anything more than sample sizes is because it's annoyingly. It's like the Osla stitch. It takes forever to do, but it's really worth it if you do it. But I don't have the patience, so there's very few things I've made in the Osla stitch. I have not made anything finished in the Omani stitch, but I will have to try that. Where was the Omani stitch invented? I would have to say Oman, but I'm not sure. I don't know. Actually, no.
It sounds like it should be.
Most stitches are, if they have a name, it's because of where they found something.
Interesting than where in this context.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be Viking either way, I guess.
No, and that's not to say that's where that stitch was invented, for example. If a stitch has a name, it's because they found something there, but that doesn't mean it was invented there. That's just where the found was.
It's probably hot, so a Viking traveled there and got undressed.
You know, they used to needle bind a cotton there. They just spliced differently in Egypt or Oman, or anyway, Middle East. Iran, they still have a lot of socks that are made out of, and slippers and shoes that are made out of needle binding. Camel muzzles are made out of needle binding. There you go. Ann Decker's got a whole thing on that. So I'm not actually sure where that would be, but I would guess because of the name, there's at least one find in there. Garcia had to go too. So bye-bye. So the roofing on these kinds of houses are similar to the ones in East Asia, like China, Korea, or Japan, right?
Well, what I associate with Far East architecture is these burned clay tiles, and the Vikings didn't use those. So the roofs, like the roofs we have in this village, and that's probably how roofs
the grass roofs or the tiled ones.
And that's probably how roofs in Norway would be made almost exclusively. We have the wooden shingle version, and we have the peat moss version, which is what she refers to as grass roofs. So the houses that look like there is a lawn growing on the roof type of thing.
Walked around Celia. They still do it today. There's a house in your neighborhood
Yeah, no,
that has.
you
a
have
roof like
it. You have it on old houses, and you have it on the new houses. We kind of stopped doing it for about 80 years, since from the 1920s to the about the year 2000. It was very rare, but it's coming back.
Nell is on here. I see. She has an answer. She says most likely not in Oman, but there are similar stitches found in Central Africa. So there you go. They would definitely. You gotta go to Anne's Zoom chat. She will geek all that stuff out for you. History's not. I'm very good at. I kind of thought it was funny when Casey wanted to give me the group expert title in the needlebinding group on Facebook, the Nalbinding group. Because I don't know if I wouldn't consider myself an expert in practical use, yeah, but when it comes to history, I'm bad. I basically know what other people have told me, like Anne, or you've got to have reliable resources, or Anne Decker's got all this. So what she tells me, I pretty much say, I'm sure it's right, and I'll go with whatever she says. But, okay, so anyway, we should probably get going, but I will show you, this is how far I got. It's a little on the bumpy side. If I don't want it to be that bumpy, I kind of like the bumpy look though, but if I don't want it to be bumpy, I could just steam block it. But it's, I wish I would have gone F2, if you can see through the holes in the wall though. It's a little looser than I would like, but it's dense, definitely dense enough. And it almost has like a little braided look on the back side. But there you go. See if you want to make something in the Double Danish. It goes quite quickly. But it does have an interesting look to it. I think I like the wrong side more. There is no technical right, and there's no right or wrong side in needlebinding. There's just the technical right side because it's facing you when you needlebind, and the technical wrong side is facing away. But you are the one that decides which is the right and wrong side. There you go. We should go. Nella says the Oman sample is recorded at Peter Collingswood Collection and has been obtained from Oman. But the most samples from Oman are single pass stitches. That's probably then how it got the Oman name. Thank you, Nell. I'm so glad you guys are on there. Because they know their stuff better than I do when it comes to history. Was there any tribes that used that stitch? Oh, good questions. Okay, but the chat will keep going for about at least a minute anyway after we go. But we will have to, join Anne's chat. I'll be there tomorrow at 4 o'clock my time. Should we go? What are we going to do next week? What are you going to...
Next week?
Yep, we got to have more annoying questions for you. Well, these are good questions today, though.
Yeah, no, if it is Viking, I can at least try to answer it.
I like stumping him. Okay, bye-bye. Yes, and Taylor says remember to like. Okay, see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.